scratching their heads and wondering, well, what species of justice is this? What are we saddled with here in this country? What kind of tyranny and despotism are we looking at here? You know, because they would most likely, if it was captured on video, they would see videotape of the arrest and the situation that led to the arrest that was completely detached from the description that was contained in the police complaint.
Exactly.
And this is what unfolds in America's courts on a regular and continuing basis.
Can I ask for a little clarification in your case?
Yes. Well, family court judge Helen C. Sturm is a family court judge. She's not a criminal court judge. So she charged me with civil contempt.
Wasn't that for 1 year?
I was sentenced for 5 years by her, but she was so kind, she used her discretion to lower the sentence to 3 years.
Well, I thought her 1 year, there was a 1 year detainment, and then those charges stopped, and then Morgenthau filed his charges.
Oh no, yeah, but that case was dismissed because I wrote a letter.
But you were still being held, correct?
Not on the criminal. That was dismissed because I wrote a letter to Judge Carol Berkman, and I let her know that when she signed the warrant, they were taking the evidence in my apartment away, and that was the negatives that proved that the photograph of the cop in bed with his daughter were actual legitimate photographs. They took the tape-recorded conversations I had of him talking about his visions of killing me, and they took all the conversations, all the tapes I had of my conversations with the district attorney's office and with judges over the phone. And so they took a lot of massive other information. So I let Carol Berkman know that now she's a part of the cover-up. And as soon as she got that letter, she dismissed all charges, didn't even tell the DA. We didn't even dismiss it in court. I'm in Rikers Island. It's nighttime. It's after 11 when they put everybody to sleep. They turn the lights on and she goes, "Dyandria, you're free to go." And I'm going, "What?" "Yep, all charges have been dropped." I'm scratching my head. I said, "Well, I can't
that's how
go
that
anywhere. The
happened.
family court has me in jail."
Carol Berkman
did not want to participate in the cover-up.
Then I was moved
and
to the
it's very
civil
rare
unit.
for a judge to go against the DA. Now, you know that.
Right.
You both know that.
The only reason I had a judge reverse themselves is because I also had them on tape saying some very pernicious things about me. But let me ask a question.
Someday we have to put that tape on.
One day, yes, we will. Did you get back your tapes and your evidence and your negatives and everything? Was everything that was seized returned?
I was absolutely in shock. I was with Posar when we picked up my materials. I opened the area where I had the negatives, and I said, "Well, there they did. They took the negatives." And then there was a manila envelope next to where I had the negatives, and it said photographs and negatives. And I started crying when I opened it up. I said, "Posar, they returned everything. They returned everything, single tape, the trial transcripts I had to prove that the family court case was a complete fraud. Everything was returned." And that had to do with Carol Berkman. So.
Well, maybe sometimes there is a justice.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't resulted in justice, you know.
Oh no, because they're denying my lawsuits. But Carol Berkman didn't do it for me. It wasn't that she liked me and cared about me. She did it for herself because she knew eventually I would get out, and I would expose her as being a part of the cover-up. And she really legitimately believed them, what they were saying about me. They were telling her, "Oh, you know, she's mentally ill. You know, she's crazy," because, you know, the family court judge said that. So Carol Berkman for a 7:30. Explain to the people what a 7:30 is.
Gosh, I know it's a hearing, but I'm not quite sure which one.
It's a mental evaluation for people to see if they're competent to stand trial. So Carol Berkman believed them. So she said at 7:30 it only takes 1 to 2 hours.
I think it's an 8:20 when you're a senior. So, you know, they have different names for these mental hearings.
This one's a 7:30 for criminal court. I don't know.
Oh, Article 81. That's when they take an old person.
Okay.
A senior. It's an Article 81, incarceration.
So instead of giving me a 1 or 2 hour evaluation, she put me in the mental ward of Elmhurst Hospital for 5 days. And the first day, the head psychiatrist was there, and the head psychologist, the head social worker, and there were a few other people in there. It was a room filled with all these therapists, and I brought a packet with me because I knew it would be impossible for them to believe what I'm saying if I don't have the documented proof. So I brought this packet with me, and I said, I'm going to tell you an incredible story. And I said, in here, you go through these papers, you'll see what I'm saying is true. So after they listened to me for about an hour, everybody left the room, and the psychiatrist, the head psychiatrist of the whole hospital, Elmhurst Hospital, came back. And he goes like this. He says, you know what? He says, it looks to me like you made some very important people very angry. So I said, just like this, do you think so? And he says, he goes like this, he says, let me tell you something. This is going to be the best evaluation anybody could ever get. You're going to be watched 24 hours a day, around the clock, and this is going to end up in your favor. So we left, and I spent those 5 days there. I even shared a room with a serial murderer. I mean, this is what they did with me. And so when Judge Berkman got that report, she was furious because she was lied to by the DA. They're telling her I was crazy. She goes, she has a right to represent herself. It's her constitutional. She's waiving my psychiatric report. She's competent. She's competent. It says it right here. And the DA goes, the ADA says, well, we still don't want her to. No. She has that right.
May I ask for some clarification?
Yes.
In your report that was issued out of Elmhurst, did it in any way mention the photos?
No.
Or your belief in the acts committed by your husband?
No.
Well, how could they, in fact, give an evaluation if that was what the basis was for your alleged incompetence?
No, they were saying because the family court judge said I was paranoid. She said I was paranoid.
Well, what was the acts that made you paranoid?
Well, see, they saw all that because I showed them the photographs.
No, but you have to understand, this is, I'm sorry, but if the acts of you charging your husband with pedophilia were the acts of paranoia, that would have had to been mentioned in a report.
No, it's not mentioned in the report. There's a lot of things. I showed them everything.
No,
it wasn't just the pedophilia.
Right.
I was charged with educational neglect, so I brought the transcript where the psychologist tested my daughter, and she was reading on grade level, and she was a year above grade level, yet I was charged with educational neglect. So I was and other things, you know, everything that they did. So and they said I was crazy, and I brought in the psychiatric evaluations by this psychiatrist chosen by ACS itself that said there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. So it's contradiction. You read the judge's reports. She's guilty of educational neglect. She's guilty of she's paranoid. She's blah blah blah. And I brought in all that evidence. So they didn't go into the past history of the cases. They just said we've evaluated this woman